Hi everyone, my name's Darryl Panes, CEO at As Good as Gold Australia. And this evening, once again, I'm joined by my brother Brian and partner at As Good as Gold. And this evening, we interview the top trends forecaster in the world, Mr. Gerald Celente. Gerald is the director of the Trends Research Institute. He's the author of Trends 2000 and Trends Tracking, and the publisher of the Trends Journal. Welcome back again, Gerald Celente.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure, Gerald. It has been a long time since we spoke last, but we've got a lot to talk about. And we've noticed that much of the forecasting that you provided is really coming to fruition now. And I look back in particular over the last 6 months, and we've got chaos all around the world, of course. We've got negative bond yields throughout many countries. We've got stock market volatility. The Dow, of course, was down nearly 400 points again last night. Real estate prices falling in many countries of the world, and that's certainly impacted on Australia. We've got negative interest rates. So we're negative interest rates in many countries. We're at 1% in Australia now, and we're looking at another 2 rate cuts between now and the end of the year, bringing us down to half of 1%. You're at 2.25% in the United States, so there's not a long way to get to zero there. No surprise, of course, that investors are starting to look seriously at precious metals, and hence we can see that in the surge in the price. So I tend to look at this, Gerald, and I'm obviously looking for feedback from you here, but I just think the governments and central banks at the moment are out of ammunition. I don't think they've got a lot left in their arsenal. I'm really interested to see how you see it at the moment.
Well, you're 100% correct. And as you mentioned, you're down to historic lows at 1%. We're looking just last week, we saw India lower interest rates for the 4th time in a row. Philippines lowering interest rates. Your neighbors over there in New Zealand, they lowered interest rates 50 basis points last week to all-time lows. You mentioned the United States, the overnight rate being between 2 to 2.25. So the last time we had a recession here, the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates 5 percentage points.
Yeah.
Now we've got 2 percentage points left to go.
Mm-hmm.
So they are running out of juice. They're going to do more quantitative easing, more bond buying. And as you already said, we're looking at negative yields. 30-year yield in Germany, negative, and you're looking at 3-month yields with an inverted yield curve that are paying more than a 10-year bond in the United States and other places. So what we're looking at is, as you said, they've run out of juice. Monetary methadone is what I call it, because that's all this has been. It's unprecedented in world history. It's a war against the savers, and what they tried to do, and were very successful at it, was to pump up equity markets. But it didn't do anything to pump up global economies on the real level, because we know that the 1% got all the dough and the rest of us got screwed. And all we are, as I see, are just, we're workers for the multinational plantations of slave land here, regardless of what country you're in. So yes, they're running out of money. They're out of more drugs. And again, it's an addicted bull. It's no different than any other addicted person. And that they're gamblers. That's all they are, and they can never get enough money. So they did everything to satisfy them and nothing to really build the economic fundamentals.
Well, when you've got people like Janet Yellen saying in one breath she doesn't expect to see another major economic downturn in her lifetime, and then a few months later suggests that at the end of the day it's an experiment, so we really don't know what the outcome is going to be. I mean, we would have to accept that we're in real trouble, because they really don't have any answers, do they? That's really the point.
I mean, why would anybody believe what Janet Yellen says?
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Well, exactly.
I don't care what she says, or Bernanke, or Powell, or the rest of them. All they are nothing more than gang members for the banksters.
Yes.
And they just repeat the lines that they throw out there. And when you look at the facts, here they talk, here's America that invades nations around the world, overthrows governments under the BS line that we're bringing them democracy. How's this a democracy? We're not allowed to read the minutes of the Fed until 5 years after they talk about it, after each meeting. 5 years, so people don't remember what they said and what happened and what the climate was at the time. That's in the great democracy. Let's get this 100% straight. It's a criminal group that's running the world. They're the banksters. This is against the Constitution of the United States. We had a sellout piece of garbage crap made the son of a bitch. Oh, I got to be proper, excuse me. You got to say daughter or bastard if you say son of a bitch. That guy, Woodrow Wilson, a Princeton boy, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks, that got us into World War I. And of course, they followed over there in Australia. Was it that wonderful, what's that passage going into Turkey where they all got wiped out? Yeah.
I know the one. Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, so he brought us also the Federal Reserve. Throughout the entire 1800s in this nation, it was against having a central bank here. It's a takeover. People better grow up and get in their heads. So when you're talking before about they're running out of ammunition, they're just pumping in more monetary methadone. That's why gold prices are going up. The people with a half a brain, they feel it in their body with the depression that they're going through, and they feel it in their bones. They feel it in their pocketbook, rather, in the trouble that they're having. What are real estate prices down in Melbourne and Sydney, down 10, 12%?
Oh, more than that, Gerald. They're quite in some areas it's like 20, 25%.
Yeah, and it's going to get worse.
Yes, it will.
We are on the cusp of the greatest depression.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gerald, but other than the two tools, that is, there are government's ability or central bank's ability to manipulate interest rates, one tool, and a printing press as their other, what do they have in their arsenal?
It's very simple. You have trade wars, currency wars, Great Depression, and the world wars. When all else fails, they take you to war.
Yeah.
And that's what you get ready for. It's the same thing. It's to replay the 1930s. You can see it happen.
Yeah.
Look what's going on with India. I know intelligent people that have no idea what just happened in Kashmir. Oh, yeah, we just changed the law. Yeah, we wrote it. They wrote it in 1947. But screw them, we're taking them over. Look at the Indian economy. Look at their equity markets, how they're plunging. Look what's in every country. What they do is they get your mind off. Look what's going on in China. This is big, by the way.
Yep.
There are two black swan events that people should look at closely. One of them is what's going on with India now and Pakistan. Oh, yeah, two nuclear-armed people that hate each other. That's great. And the other one is, of course, what's going on with Hong Kong.
Yes.
And I've been talking about this since it happened. China's not going to let this happen. I mean, you're looking at now, the 7 million people up against 1.4 billion. And now here's the big story about that. This Hong Kong is still a headquarters of the Asian level of the Western banks. They're going to be gone.
Yeah.
If China's going to overthrow, they're going to take it over permanently, Hong Kong. And this is going to have a big ripple effect with the Western banks. That's their Asian center of business. So that's another black swan.
Yeah. So where to from?
Straits, that was it, right? The Bosphorus, wasn't it, in Turkey?
I think you're
all
right.
The Australians got wiped out.
I think you're right. Yes. So where to from here? Where to from here? What do you see over the next 3 months so far as a further decline?
The next 3 months are hard to tell. I mean, you can't. Again, I always say nobody can predict the future. And I just mentioned two black swan events. Who would have thought this would have happened with Kashmir and Hong Kong? So what the next 3 months are, all right, now we're in the summertime and the living is not easy. I mean, you see what's going on with the markets. And you see what's going on with gold spiking. So the unease is already there. The volatility in the markets are real. And the global economic slowdown numbers are factual and they're real too. So what usually happens, and again, it could change. then you have people come back, start, around September, everything in the States, we're in a different schedule than you cats, but, and there's the major hub over here, Wall Street. So, so people start getting back into the groove. And then by around October, early October, they really start looking at things really closely, because now you're looking at how much did the retail business, what kind of trade are they doing in terms of bringing in inventory? How are they planning for Christmas? So they get serious about it in October in a very different way. And that's one of the reasons why you have your big crashes usually happen in October. So October is going to be a critical month, but any month could be critical. We just had it last December. It was the worst Dow since the Great Depression back in the 1930s. So the whole thing's up for grabs. We don't believe, but again, there are wild cards, that the greatest depression is going to really hit home until around 2021, the end of 2020. But things are escalating at a very different rate, so you have to change your forecast.
Yes. Tell me, how are mainstream media approaching this at the moment? I mean, just imagine for a moment that if I was, and this is not happening in Australia, but I think we're getting very close, where you'll be watching the news on television and they'll make a report in the finance section, which they give about 2 minutes to, but in preference to talking about the All Ords in Australia, I can see them starting to make reference to, say, gold surging in price. But imagine what would happen if that announcement was made. Gold's up another $50 today. It's the highest price in recorded history in Australian dollars. I mean, everyone would just jump in and buy gold, wouldn't they? I mean, the surge would, right now, we've seen an amazing lift, but that would just intensify.
Look, if you go back to the interview I did last year with you, I'm almost positive I said this, because I've been saying it for almost 6 years. That gold has to break over $1,450 an
You did
ounce
say that, yes.
For it to gain strength.
Yeah.
And I've been negative on gold in terms of where it was going until it broke over that mark. On June 6th of this year, we sent a trend alert out to our subscribers. The gold bull run. You look at the cover of the Trends Journal last month, the gold bull run. When gold went over $1,332 an ounce is when I announced that, because it broke over the $1,325 mark, which it was having trouble getting over. Yep. The next breakout point I said was 1,385. It blew right past that.
Yep.
And now it's blown past the 1,450 mark. And as we're speaking now in the United States, I just looked at, before we went on the air, gold was up like 20-something dollars.
Yeah, correct.
It's in the 26 range, 15.26. The downside risk, as I see it, and I do not give financial advice on the trend forecast, but I have to make that clear. The downside risk to me is only around $1,400, which in futures markets is a very small number. And the upside, as I've been saying, once it breaks past the 1,450, it's going to spike toward the 2,000 mark and above. And that's where I see it going.
Right.
Gerald, you've probably covered my first question, which was going to be, because I've been reading some of your material on King World News, but it did state in one of the last interviews you did with them on June 6th, the trend alert was gold was at 1332. You just mentioned that. Now it's at 1500. My question was going to be, how did you know that was that was a coming increase? What do you look at? What do you see? Do you look at graphs, or what comes to your mind?
No, I don't do graphs, and I'm terrible at math. I barely got out of high school, had a 70 average. The only reason they got me out was to get me out.
Yep.
But anyway, I began buying gold in the 1970s. My first buy of gold was $187.50 an ounce. $187.50 an ounce.
It's a good price.
And by the way, that's how I quit my job. I was a number 2 guy running a major trade association and chief government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. I was a pro at getting environmental legislation killed in the, I'm serious, in the height of the environmental movement. And then I started to grow up and I hated what I was doing and I quit. But I parlayed a $5,000 bet into almost $750,000.
Right.
And by playing gold futures and oil futures.
Right.
And the Iranian conflict was breaking out. But to make it really clear, I ended up losing just about all.
It's generally the way.
Yeah, I was a young guy. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And people weren't playing the futures in those days like they are now. But anyway, I made enough money to quit my job and I began the Trends Research Institute with the understanding that current events form future trends. So in looking at gold and why I knew it was going to break out at that number is because I could follow it all the time and have been. And I knew where the resistance level was. And people forget because as time goes by. So I said, I've been saying this now for 6 years, that the breakout point was 1,450. Couldn't get above that. So that was just in my gut and by the numbers as well. But that's how I really did it. Nothing more than that.
Okay. Well, you certainly got it right. I'm going to put a couple of charts on the screen here. I'm not quite sure if you see them, but they will come on when we do the when we publish this. We will see the charts on the screen. One is last month. It's 30 days ago. These come from goldprice.org, and this is one of today. And we're going to talk about the one of today. So it's 30 days apart. And basically, today's price in gold in Australian dollars is up 0.5%. And in 30 days, the last 30 days, it's risen 11%. The last 6 months, 20%. The last 12 months, 35%. The last 5 years, 58%, which is the covering over 5 years, so that's an average of 11. But the incredible one is the last 20 years, gold in Australia has risen an average of 22% per year, a total of 458%. Unremarkable. So my question is, knowing all these facts and figures, why do the financial institutions overlook these figures?
Yeah, they don't want gold to go high because that means their business is going low. I mean, they're in the business of gambling. And they want equity markets to go up. They don't want gold to go up. And look, I remember, when they wouldn't even mention the word gold on the major net, Bloomberg, CNBC, they didn't even list the price of gold back in the 80s, 90s, up until like the middle of the 2000s or into the 2000s. They weren't even listing the price of gold. This is their enemy because gold is the ultimate safe haven asset. And you mentioned earlier about we were in negative interest rates, negative bond yields. I mean, who made up this crap? Negative bond yields? You guys are great guys. I've been on with you before. I really like you. I got a 20-year bond for you to buy. And in 20 years, when you cash in, because I like you so much, I'm going to give you less back than what you bought it.
Yeah, good. Sounds good value.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because you're really wonderful people, and I want to make a good deal with you. I mean, you can't make this crap up. And they've been doing it in Japan with the 10-year bonds for how long now? I mean, what is it, 5 years? And who's buying up these bonds in Eurozone and Japan? And it's the government that's buying them, and they're buying corporate bonds as well. And the Japanese government, it's right there. They've been falsely boosting the equity markets by buying stocks. The whole thing is a rigged game. They're murderers and thieves when people getting this in their head rather than in America. I like the Democrats. I like the Republicans. Oh, you like getting it up to you-know-what, don't you? Grow up.
Yeah.
They're robbing you. They're criminals. They start wars based on lies. They steal your money anytime they want. Look, I have to be serious about this. We're going to be heading toward the Third World War if this keeps going the way it is. Look at the little jerks you got running the show over there, over here.
Yep.
Oh, we're going to build our military up. Go screw yourself. You guys haven't won a war since World War II. Look at all the people you killed.
True.
And that's what they get. So they get your mind off it in that. And meanwhile, there's going to be the greatest depression. People are going to be losing their homes, their businesses, their jobs. They better prepare and prevail now. Because if they wait until Janet Yellen tells them, oh, yeah, then you'll be in fine shape. Don't wait for the official word. Look at the facts. You know, the motto of the Trends Journal is think for yourself.
Yeah.
We put the information out there. Do what the hell you want to do. I could care less.
Yeah.
But we're saying the greatest depression is on the way. And that they're rigging the game. They're going to lie about the numbers. Again, I mentioned 10 to 20% Sydney, Australia real estate down because that's what I read. I don't know. You know, I'm a little far away from there, so I don't know the real story. You're telling me now more like 20% in some places, 25%.
Correct.
So think about that. Now think about when it really crashes. Boom, another 25%, maybe 30%. And this time your recovery is not going to be as quick as it was following the panic of '08 because they don't have the juice anymore.
Yeah. No, I understand. Talking about, you mentioned they're robbing us. Talking about robbing you. Just recently, Gerald, I read a white paper report from one of the big four banks in Australia talking up the cashless society by somewhere between 2022 2026. Another major step toward taking away our economic freedom. I mean, this is really stealing. Our government in Australia is putting forward to implement legislation to ban over $10,000 cash transactions. So forget about transactions on gold. This is cash transactions on anything. Now, once this is implemented, if it is, it's a very simple process, of course, to reduce that to 8,000, 5,000, 2,000, whatever. Here's the important thing. It would appear to me the main reason for doing this is to reduce incentive to take your money out of the bank because you can't spend it if you do anyway. But if it's in there and we go to negative interest rates, which is very, very likely in Australia, you're going to be paying money to have your money deposited in the bank, and it's no good drawing it out because you'll be restricted there as well, and it's illegal to do a cash transaction on whatever number they suggest. So, I don't know how this policy, or if there is a policy that's being instigated in the US. What's the thought in the US over a cashless society? We are very seriously into it over here.
They don't have a clue about it. They hardly talk about it. And that's the other reason why people are going into gold, because it's going cashless.
Yes.
Or how about going worthless rather than cashless? Because that's what the currencies are worth.
Yep.
Digital paper, digital money printed on nothing and backed by nothing.
Yep.
That's why, by the way, you're seeing still strength in a lot of the cryptocurrencies, because they're the people that can't afford to get into gold that want to buy cryptos. Because and now you're going to start seeing with the devaluation of the currencies, more and more outflow of money leaving the countries. And this is why they're doing these kind of things. Look, in the United States, I used to write about it in the Trends Journal when the crash happened. Not taking money out of the bank, getting everything out. Oh, what a time I had. The fights I got in. I said, I'm going to call the police. Give me my money. How dare you? You couldn't take anything out. You couldn't get anything out over $10,000 with a whole big story. And I'm a fighter. Not with just words. I also, I used to have my own school. I taught close combat for a lot of years.
Okay.
That's why I'm a fighter. I'll fight for peace, but I won't die for war.
Yes.
So it's not empty words. I also launched Occupy Peace. And if people want to get that movement going and help us expand it, it's going well. Go to occupypeace.com, because these pieces of crap that you call your politicians are going to be taking us to war. And we have to stop it before it happens.
So I had to get in fights to get my money out of the bank.
Yeah.
Because I don't take crap. I don't give it and I don't take it.
Yeah.
I had scenes going on in the bank. The people out here know they're not going to be able to get their money out. Oh, Mr. Celente, don't tell me to lower my voice. You give me my money. It's in writing.
Yeah.
So I'm warning everybody out there. Bank holiday. It's not a nice name. We had a bank holiday. Holiday? You can't get your damn money out. Grow up. It ain't no holiday. Oh, and you're going to put it in the safety deposit box. Well, we're closing the safety deposit box because terrorists are involved in this crash. And we have to make sure, they're going to make up some kind of BS so they can close this. You can't get your money out of safety deposit boxes. Yep. You're going to call a bank holiday and you're going to be screwed. Oh, going back to when 9/11 happened? I wrote about this too. When it happened, of course, I'm ready to move. USA Today used to be a real newspaper at one time. They used to have my top trends of the year. My top trend for 2001, printed, you go to our website, trendsresearch.com, you can see it there. USA Today, 2001 won't be our year, Trendseer says. This is on December 12th, 2000. I saw 9/11 coming in a very different way. I wrote about Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. You know why? Their foreign policy. People forgot Bill Clinton slaughtering Iraq, bombing the hell out of it. America's policy in the Middle East. On and on. So anyway, when 9/11 happened, first thing I did was I called up the bank. I forgot the name of the bank. It was bought out now by Citibank. It was the headquarters up in Boston. I had CDs, certificates of deposit. I used to get interest rates in those days. And I said, I want to cash in all I'm sorry, Mr. Celente, we can't cash them in. Certificates of deposits are financial instruments and they're traded on Wall Street, and Wall Street is closed. Okay? I couldn't get my money. Number two, I had in those days, I had it in a safety deposit box, my gold. Went to the bank, got my gold, went to the health food store, bought a bunch of dried fruits. And because I don't know if these planes are going down the Hudson River. I'm a New Yorker. Maybe you could tell a little bit by my accent. I know this area inside out. 45 miles north of New York City is the Indian Point Power Plant, which actually as a kid I watched getting built. Anyway, I don't know if a plane's going to hit that thing. Because if that happens, there's going to be chaos like you can't imagine. Chaos like you can't imagine. So I had guns, gold. I bought all this stuff, a getaway plan. I'm 4 hours. I'm in Kingston, New York. In those days, I was in Rhinebeck, right across the river. 4.5 hours from Montreal, Canada. So I'm going to get the hell out of here because if things go down, they're not going to let anybody leave the country. So I had a guns, gold, and a getaway plan. And those things, they had a thing called maps. They had a map. You know why they call these handhelds? Because everybody's masturbating in public. Anyway, so now I had all back roads going into Canada from here because I know they're going to close the main roads. So when I say guns, gold, and a getaway plan and prepare for the worst, that's what I was doing on 9/11 when everybody was freaking out. I went right into action. And that's what we're telling people now. This thing's going to come down hard one way or another. Look what's going on around the world. You mentioned before about the banks and what they're doing. And think about it now. Look at the problems the banks are in. The headline in Monday's Financial Times, 30,000 job cuts in the bank since April. You mentioned earlier when you talked about the charts, gold is up 20% in a month. When you have guys like Ray Dalio, the founder and head of Bridgewater Associates, the largest hedge fund in the world, That's another bunch of bullshit. Hedge funds, private equity groups, these things didn't exist when I was a young guy. They buy up everything and own everything. Again, all we are plantation workers for the multinationals of slave landing.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's solid on gold. It's like he read our Trends Journal 2 weeks after.
Oh, he probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're hearing Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, one after another, Morgan Stanley, recession. What recession? We're in a recession. The numbers don't show it. Take the numbers and shove it. Go through what people are living every day.
Yes.
They can't make ends meet.
Of course.
So then what we're saying is think of the businesses that are going to go down first. Are you in that business? What business should you get into? Everything's not going to go down. Things are going to go up. Here's one that really easy. If you're a real estate agent, you better start thinking about doing something else.
Something else, I agree. Yeah. Let me give you a real example of an experience that one of our clients had just 2 or 3 days ago. They placed an order on us for $900,000 in precious metals. They placed a $100,000 deposit and just did a bank transfer on that. That was fine. They then went back, then they tried to do the balance, the transfer of $800,000 and were rejected in the process. The bank said to these two people who were in their very early 80s, "We don't believe you are of sound mind and do not have the right mental faculties to make this appropriate or the right decision." What I find really interesting about that, Gerald, is the fact that when they received the money, the bank never turned to them and said, "Hey, we don't believe you're of sound mind and making the right decision in transferring it to us." But when it's withdrawing it, all of a sudden things change, huh? I mean, so these people now have headed down to the bank with their lawyer today to try and have this issue resolved. But this is what's happening now in this country.
Again, that's what I was telling you, a different story, but what happened with me for a different reason.
Yeah.
So again, for me, I would say, who the hell are you? Get me my money.
Yep. Yep. Well, that's what the solicitor...
By the way, that's one of my sayings right now. I just began to forecast the greatest depression. So my line is, game's over, fight's on.
Yeah.
The fight's on, and people forgot how to fight. I'm talking to this teacher over here. I see her out there. Stop. Oh, every day now, we're teaching children about no bullying. And now we have no bullying zone. A no bullying zone, grow up! Teach the kids how to fight. I'm a little kid that grew up in the Bronx. I didn't go home crying. You learn how to fight. You learn how to take care of yourself. Little kids always get picked on. You learn how to fight. The fight's out of everybody.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of government clowns telling you what to do, and all the little stooges that they have under them. No bullying zones. Oh, and she said, well, we have to because they could commit suicide if they're bullied. Like George Carlin said, survival of the fittest. Some make it, some don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Grow up.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying this because it's the bigger picture. Gold is a reflection of the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is this thing's coming down, it's coming down hard. And the harder and faster it comes down, the more the governments are going to do to control you. If I was running for office, which I would never do, but if I was running, one of the things I would say is that the first thing I'm going to do when I get into office is cut and work to cut every government agency, shrink them down to a third of what they are now, from the federal government to the local level. because we got a bunch of stupid stooges that people call bureaucrats that got these jobs from politicians that give their friends jobs, and they want to steal more of your money so they could get more in and keep their positions as politicians. So all they're doing is stealing your money when you need it the most in the name of taxes. People better start fighting, because it's going to get ugly out there. You're going to start seeing riots. What's going on in Hong Kong now is just the beginning of it. You're going to start seeing this worldwide. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And they're going to start losing it. So I'm just telling people, again, you do what you want. GC's 3Gs, Gerald Celente's 3Gs, guns, gold, and a getaway plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think this is a great example of where we're at in Australia at the moment, and I'd like some feedback from you on whether or not America is experiencing the same. I was speaking with an Australian airline pilot the other day, just a few days ago, and he said, look, I connect with a group of friends on a regular basis, and we talk about the economy and how much we need to generate in income to be able to support our families. He said, Darryl, how much do you think, here's the question to me, Darryl, how much do you think that my wife and myself have to earn to do the following? 1, live in a median property, 15K out of Sydney CBD, $1.5 million. 2 cars in the drive, 2 children going to private school, not the best school, but a good private school, and then all of the other expenses that we are aware of. How much do you think, and to be able to have some money put aside to be able to save so that they can retire in reasonable comfort, how much do you think we would need to earn? I said, about 350,000. He said, Darryl, you are nowhere near it. We have to earn between $550,000 and $600,000 a year to be able to afford that lifestyle. Now, I only had one other question for him, and that was, so how many people do you know that earn that sort of money? He said, very few. So this is unsustainable. Absolutely, quite clearly unsustainable. Is it that bad in the US?
You're looking at people. I mean, you see the numbers out there that people don't have $400 US dollars if there's an emergency.
Yeah.
The people living, from day to day, dime to dime. No, it's very bad.
But the economy's great.
But your real estate market over there expanded far beyond what.
Yes, it did.
Over here.
Yes.
Far beyond. Some areas, like San Francisco, little areas, but on a national level, nothing close to what happened in Australia. So you had that big real estate boom, and now you're getting a pullback. And again, you're seeing, and by the way, all this BS about trade wars, there's no trade wars going on in the real sense. These are pennies on the dollar, what they're doing with tariffs. All the tariffs that Trump put on China in 2018 added up to 0.6% of their GDP. It's a global slowdown. The whole thing was artificially propped up with the cheap money, and it only went to the 1%. The wages, median household income in the United States is below 1999 levels. The money didn't go to anybody but the 1%. Trump's tax cuts all went to the 1%. So now what we're looking at is a major crash, and that's where we're telling people to prepare and prevail so you can prosper. Really get serious about it. Stop buying things like bottled water. Not bottled water. Say they're putting tap water in bottles. That's all they're doing. And it's a fact. It's not better. And by the way, and then you're putting it in plastic and then keep it in your car and it gets nice and hot. More poisons come out of that plastic. It's great for you. It's really great for your prostate.
Of course.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you do things. And the other thing, this is very important. Getting the best health you can. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm not talking about religious.
talking about becoming the person you want to be and try to work on it. As I say, I'm not the person I used to be. You know, they go back. You know what this guy did when he was like, you know, the crap I pulled when I said, I mean, Jesus, take it easy, you know? So what I'm saying is you grow and you try to grow smarter. So I'm saying to everyone now, all our subscribers, get in the best health you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. These are going to be very difficult times. And the better shape you're in, the better shape you're going to be able to get through this. And there are going to be opportunities. And again, as I've said all my adult life, there's no better safe haven than gold. You know, one time, about 2002, I started getting banned from the major media. I used to be on Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America. I started seeing it 4 times a month. And what happened was I said what would happen with the Afghan war and the Iraq war later. And nobody wanted to hear it. So they stopped having me on. You know, I said, you know, if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off in Afghanistan, the British or the Russians, what makes you think the Americans are going to win this war? You know, they'll, oh no, we're America. Oh, yes, take it easy, all right? You know, no, we don't want you on anymore because you're not saying what everybody else is, and we swallow the garbage. So anyway, I had some tough economic times. So what I did was I went to friends. I said, listen, I got to borrow $25,000. Now, friends aren't going to give you the money, but here's the deal. I'll give you $25,000 worth of gold. So loan me the money.
Yeah.
And their friends, they would even charge me interest. Hold it for 2 years, and then if I can't pay it back, you keep the gold, and we're a little agreement. And if it's less than what gold prices are lower than when I loaned it to you, I'll pay it difference. So that's how I use gold. Yep. I use gold to get through the tough stretch for a while.
Yes.
And without that gold, I would have been screwed. And every one of my friends that loaned to me, and I got it all back, they were all mad at me because gold prices had spiked. Damn it, I was hoping you would be able to pay me back. But that's a true story.
Gerald, just to carry on, and this is all coming from what I've read that you've been talking about recently. You're now forecasting that the Great Depression is on its way. In your opinion, how long will it last, and will the price of gold reach $2,000 before it starts?
I believe it will reach 2,000 before it starts on the trajectory that it's now on. And the greatest depression, again, at the latest, is going to be felt and understood by everyone by 2021.
Right. Okay. So we haven't got a long time to put our hands in our wallets and start buying a little bit of gold and obviously also silver. Look, my last question before Darryl finishes off. Again, from what I've read from you, the Federal Reserve pumped $29 trillion into the economy. It's unbelievable figures. $29 trillion into the economy, and as you said, it didn't work. So what must the world do to turn around this debt fiasco, and how long will it take the world to respond?
I didn't answer your part of your other question. I just thought about it. I don't know how long the greatest depression will last, but this one they won't be able to get out of it very quickly, and because they don't have the juice to do it. So the 29 trillion, by the way, that's from the Levy Institute at Bard College. That's their number. They don't have they're going to come up with new scams to do it. The only way I see us out of it, let's bring it to a personal level, is that the governments, as I said, what you have to do is you have to start cutting back on these huge bureaucracies that have been created. I mean, here in the United States, you got a guy like Trump BSing on one line about, I'm a businessman, and now you're running down this $1 trillion a year deficit. Going into debt, in debt, $1 trillion a year, and you got to cut back the military budgets. They're ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're always fighting the last war, generals.
all these aircraft carriers. This stuff is useless. You bring down the electric system, you start using cyber warfare, hypersonic weaponry. These things are antiquated pieces of junk. Tanks and airplanes and aircraft carriers and ships. They'll have no place in this war. And by the way, this isn't BS. I was also brought into Virginia Military Institute to talk about New Millennium Warfare.
Right.
Meeting with, back in the day with General Anthony Zinni, the #2 guy that ran the first Gulf War. So what I'm saying is we have to start becoming cost conscious.
Yes.
You have to start saving money. You have to start breaking up the bureaucracies from the local level to the federal levels. We have to get smart about doing business, and you have a bunch of stupid people that they call politicians. I say people to everybody, Google up the definition of politician. If you have something in front of you right now, go to Google, put in definition of politician. We'll say someone that runs for office, political, blah, blah, blah. A person that's manipulative and devious, typically to gain advancement within an organization. All right? So you got manipulative and devious people screwing you.
Yeah, so it looks as though, from what you're saying, 21, 22, we've only got a couple of years left to put away a few shackles or put away a lot of money.
22 will be too late.
Yep.
I think 22 will be too late.
Yep. Well, Darryl.
Haven't got long.
No, we haven't got long.
No, people have got to start getting prepared. And the scary thing is, of course, that as much as there are some people are starting to recognise, and they're asking the question now, well, there's something wrong out there. We're not sure what it is, but there's something wrong. Yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I said earlier. People feel in their pocketbook and they feel in their book.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. Okay.
Right.
Once again, Gerald, I mean, look, it's spectacular. We've been speaking for about 45 minutes thereabouts, and it seems to have gone in about 5 minutes. So it's always fantastic talking with you. Any closing comments, Gerald, that you'd like to add that you feel as though our viewers need to know, need to hear?
Yeah, stop listening to the mainstream news. It's just making you stupid.
Yep.
And all they do is tell you what happened. They don't tell you what's going to happen. So again, of course, we have a magazine, the Trends Journal. It's history before it happens. It's tomorrow's news today. Start, whether it's us or anybody, start going to information sources that are going to teach you rather than preach to you. And go to and break away again from the mainstream thought process, because the mainstream is going downstream really quick. It is downstream. So it's really a time to prepare now. Don't wait for it to happen. As I said, guns, gold, and a getaway plan in any way you want to do it. And by the way, when all these murders, they talk about gun controllers, which are doing everywhere, what makes this person any different going into a mosque and killing people, or we just had Dayton, Ohio, or El Paso? I don't like those people. I don't like them. I'm going to kill them. I hate them. What makes them any different than, I don't like that guy, Gaddafi. I want him out of there. Get rid of him. I don't care who you kill. I want him out of there. I don't like that guy Assad. I want him out of there. I don't like that guy Hussein. I could care less if you kill 1 million people. I want him out. What makes those sick bastards any sicker than the bastard Blair, the bastard Cameron, Sarkozy, Bush, Obama, Clinton, and the ones you got over there? They're as sick as the murderers that are killing people. I don't like them.
I don't know what to say after that.
So very true.
Yeah.
That's what has to change.
Yes.
If we're going to move forward, we have to be in a state of peace. And as I said, I won't die for war, but I'll fight for peace. I'll fight for the Prince of Peace. Oh, and by the way, but Celente got angry and raised his voice. Listen, little girls and boys, the Prince of Peace became violent when he takes the money changes out of the temple. The money changes, capisce? The money changes. The Goldman Sachs gang, the Merrill Lynch mob, the JP Morgan Chase criminals. You got it? Nothing has changed. So if you don't stand up, you're going to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Exactly.
Yeah. It's
So occupy peace if you want to help us stop the war that's on the near horizon.
Yeah. Yeah, people have got to stop being influenced by free bread and circuses, don't they? I mean, that's what's been happening. Yeah, exactly.
The greatest freak show on earth.
Yeah.
Step right up, step right up. Okay, guys, good meeting. Good seeing you again.
Gerald, look, it's fantastic connecting with you always. And look, I've got to thank you for your input. I know that you are an incredibly busy man, but look, I'm sure before we just close off, there's a number of our viewers that would love to connect with you and the services you provide. So if they'd like to know more about your work and the Trends Research Institute, or subscribe to the Trends Journal so that they can read about history before it happens, what do they need to do?
Just go to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com.
Oh, fantastic. Like it's, and I would recommend to our subscribers they do exactly that because they will get real value.
And by the way, we also have a discount request page. We know people are having a difficult time. It's only $129 a year.
Yeah, which is a gift.
But if they can't afford it, because we know, believe me, we get stories every day from people, telling us what they're living through. So we try to make it available to everyone.
Fantastic. Look, thank you again, Gerald. It's been fantastic having you on. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers, of course, our subscribers, for their ongoing support. And until next time, stay well, stay focused, and bye for now.